Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel and welcome to a slightly different video. Today we're going to be talking all about skin, and because of that I am filming this video barefaced. I have never really filmed a video that has had me barefaced the full way through it, but I thought because of the content of this video and what we're going to be talking about, it would kind of be not hypocritical to wear makeup because it's your face, you can do whatever you want with it. But yeah, I thought it would be best to do this video barefaced and just kind of keep it chill. So this is a video very different to anything I've ever filmed on my channel before because, to be honest, it's something that I've never had an experience with before. It's something that I've never really encountered in my life, and then it all came at once. And the reason I'm making this video is when this entire situation happened, and the situation will be explained throughout this video, I started to document it kind of as a joke on Instagram, and then it got more and more and more serious, and I did updates kind of now and then, but as the situation's kind of calmed down a bit, I've stopped uploading to Instagram about my skin, and because of that I've had a few questions from people asking for updates, what's happened, for a story time about the full situation because it was a bit mental. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to talk you through what has been going on with my face for the last few months and what it's up to now. And before I do get into this video, I want to throw out a disclaimer. I know that by no means what I've experienced is like terrible. Compared to some people, what I experienced would have been a walk in the park, but for me and what I've been used to growing up, this was a big change for me. My face kind of exploded and I wasn't prepared for it, and everyone's experience is different, and that's why I wanted to share this video. I feel like the way that I handled myself throughout this situation was quite mature, I guess. I didn't really let it get me down, and I feel like that's just something in my head. I'm a very optimistic person and I don't like things to be able to drag me down, and I want to put this video out there just so that if you are going through anything similar, any similar situations, you can just hear another person's side of the story. So, background on my skin. Basically, I have always had pretty good skin. At school, I never had like major spots or anything. I would happily go into school without makeup on. It was never really something that bothered me. Even when my period started and all of the hormones kicked off, I never really got spots as such. I'd get a few here and there, but that was about it. However, I learned when I was about 10 years old maybe that my dad had cystic acne growing up, and that kind of started in his late teens into his 20s. And not only that, but my mum does suffer with quite ragey spots even now, and neither of my parents had troublesome skin growing up, and it was more once they got into their 20s they started to have skin problems. So that is something that I've always kind of been aware of. And when I was younger and I'd started my period, my mum used to always joke, like if I got a singular spot she'd be like, oh, this is it happening, it's coming for you now. But it never did until recently. And that recently began maybe about a year and a half ago. So this full story kind of centres around this guy here, and he's looking tiny now, he's looking great, he's not taking up my entire face. But I nicknamed him Jerry at the height of this fiasco, so we're gonna just keep calling him Jerry. So I'd say about a year and a half ago I started noticing a little bump under my skin here, and it wasn't really noticeable to anyone else. I didn't really notice it looking in the mirror, but whenever I was applying makeup or touching my face I could feel like a small bump beneath my skin, and it was always there. It never really worried me. It kind of, I always just assumed that it would be a spot that would come to a head eventually and that would be it. As time went on, you could kind of see a slight like discoloration where it was, but again it was nothing noticeable. I tried to look through some of my old photos to see if I could find a photo of it before this full thing happened, but I don't really take many selfies, and when I do I normally have makeup on, so I couldn't really find much to show what it was like before. But as I said, I never thought anything of it. I just thought it was going to be a spot that would come eventually, and that did happen at about the start of June time. I kind of noticed that it was coming up more to the surface and it looked as though it was developing a whitehead, And in my head, I'm like, woo, here comes the spot, hallelujah, time to squeeze it. And that's where it all went wrong. So basically, this spot came out to a little head. I tried to squeeze it just using my fingers and it didn't work. So Hollie, thinking that it was a great idea, went and got a pin to stick into her face. I've always been one of those people that likes to squeeze spots. If there's something on my face, I'm going to play with it, I'm going to try and get it out. And in my head, when I saw this coming to a head, I thought that it's been in there for like 1.5 years, it needs to come out. So I wanted to squeeze it to see if it was going to actually come out, and when it didn't come with my fingers, I thought, do you know what, it's been in there for a while, it might be a bit stubborn, I'll just poke it. Bad decision. I'd also like to point out here that I did try to sterilise the pin. I put it in boiling water with some salt in it and stuff, and I tried to do it like as clean and as properly as possible, but it didn't quite work. So after I did try and pop it and nothing really came out, I was like, do you know what, it's fine, it's not ready, like I'll just leave it. And the next few days was where it started to get interesting. Basically, this thing on my face no longer looked like a spot, and instead it turned like bright red and just started to grow. And it grew, and it grew, and it grew. By this point, I'd realised that I probably shouldn't be touching it, so I didn't ever try to squeeze it again. I just kind of left it to do its thing, and I thought if I leave it to get big, then my body will kind of try to digest it a bit. But that never really happened. And then we get on to the point of the story where he comes onto Instagram. Jerry makes his Instagram debut the night that we went to go and see Vistas in Aberdeen. So they were coming to play, we went for a little gig, and I went to take a boomerang just before we left, and I literally like turned my head and this massive spot, you could just see it, like, and there was no avoiding it. And I thought, do you know what, that's quite funny, I've got this massive thing on my face, so I'm just going to document it on Instagram. And that is where Jerry was born. As I'm talking right now, I will insert the little Instagram stories that I put up from that night, and I just thought it was a laugh, to be honest. Like, I've never been one that's really too fussed about my physical appearance. Like, it's a spot on my face. In my head, I knew it was going to go away. It wasn't a big deal. It was quite funny, so I just made the most of it. And I had a few people reply to those stories being like, oh my god, that's the biggest spot I've ever seen in my life. And that's all it was. At least I thought it was. But it didn't go away. So by this point, Jerry is getting bigger and bigger by the day. And it was just, it got to the point it was really like tingly. It wasn't sore, but it was quite numb and tingly, and it was kind of like pins and needles on my face. I was being very careful, and I was trying not to wear makeup as much because I knew that that's probably going to only make it worse. And I was sending pictures to my mum every so often being like, oh my god, look at this thing, it's not going down. And she flipped. My mum was like, Hollie, what are you doing? Please get yourself to the doctors right now. But at that point, it was like a Friday evening or something, so the doctors had just shut. It would be shut for the weekend. I was like, oh, it'll be fine, I'll just wait, I'll like book an appointment, go in on Monday. And my mum was like, no bitch. If the doctors are shut, get yourself to a hospital. And I was like, what? I was like, that's a little bit extreme. I was like, I'm not going to A&E for a spot on my face. But my mum was very insistent that I did go to the hospital, and what she failed to tell me is that my grandpa had an older brother who died at age 21 because he had an abscess on his neck that burst inward rather than outwards, and it basically poisoned his entire body. And my mum, having spoken to one of her GP friends, had determined that this on my face was an abscess and it was gonna burst in rather than out and I was gonna die. Obviously that's a bit extreme, but that's what was going through my mum's head. She is an extreme worrier, and once she'd spoken to her friends that were GPs, they were like, that is either like a boil or an abscess that needs to come out rather than go in. She needs to go and get something for it. So little old me bundles into my car at like 7 o'clock and drives myself to A&E. I was so embarrassed. Like, I was sat in A&E with this thing on my face and there's people going around with like broken arms. So I went in, saw the triage nurse, and she gave me a GMed appointment for later that evening. So I basically went away, came back at midnight, and I saw the GMed doctor person at the hospital. My mum's friend had also recommended that I get some magnesium sulfate, which basically just is like a drawing thing. It'll draw anything out of an abscess or a boil to like the top of your skin. So I picked that up when I was on my way home from the hospital, and I kind of just slathered it on my face. I then returned to the hospital at 12 o'clock for my GMed appointment, during which the doctor prescribed me like this set of medication. I can't remember the exact name for it now, but it was basically some sort of antibiotic to go in and kill whichever bacteria was about in my face. And he also prescribed me this, which is dermal face wash. It's basically just like an antibacterial face wash thing for like problem skin. So he gives me my pills, my face wash, and then turns to me and goes, "That should help with the abscess on your face, but I recommend that you get a GP appointment to talk about your acne." And at that specific moment, I was like, acne? Like, I have never ever thought of myself as having acne before, but as soon as he said it, I was like, do you know what? Now coming to think of it, I do have spots all the time. And it's not just like one or two little spots when my period comes, it's like gross spots pretty much all the time. But I just never thought to put the label of acne onto it. I just thought I had like problem skin, and I was like, okay, right, fair. Yep, you're probably right there. I probably do have acne. So Holly gets home, she's using her face wash, taking her antibiotics, putting on magnesium sulfate every now and then, just to try and get Jerry to get the off my face. And then it happens. We are sat one night having dinner, and all of a sudden the tight pins and needly feeling on Jerry turns to a burning, like stabbing pain on my face. It literally felt like my face was burning, and I was just sat there. I couldn't eat anymore. I was like, oh my god. I was like, what is happening? What is going on? It felt like my face was on fire, and then he exploded. Now, I do have a video that I took to send to my mum, and I've contemplated whether to put it in here or not, but it is really funny, so I'm just going to do it. If you don't like kind of squeamish stuff, skip a few seconds ahead. And yeah, for those of you that want to see the video, here it is. God, it's just happened. It's just happened, Alison.
Oh, that is disgusting.
It's stinging. Oh my god. So I'd say that full scenario happened maybe about 2 or 3 days after I'd started taking the medication and using the magnesium sulfate, and I feel like it happened really fast, but even although it did burst, it didn't get it all out. It was as if a lot of the pressure had been released, but there was still a lot more in there to come out. I think that was like the Sunday evening or something, and on the Monday morning I phoned up the doctors and booked an appointment to go and see my GP. So I rock up to the GP, I tell her all what's happened, I show her what I've been taking from the hospital GMed doctor, and she changes me from one sort of antibiotics to another. Again, I can't remember the name, I'll put the photo on screen right now. And she said basically this is just a lot more like concentrated than the type that I'd already been prescribed. So I started taking that. I think it was like a week-long course maybe. And she said that I should take that. If there is anything else to come out, that will help it come out. So I did that for a week. Nothing else really came of it. I think I had like one more miniature burst, but that was it. I was also told not to wear any makeup for that week, which unfortunately was graduation week at university, and I work at the uni. I was filming graduations, doing things out and about on campus. Everyone was looking beautiful, and I was there with a bloody extra head on my face. It was tough, it was humiliating, it was disgusting, but I knew that I had to do it. So I just went makeup free for like maybe 2 weeks actually, and I was just like putting on the stuff, taking the stuff, trying to do anything to get it to leave. And after I finished that course of medication, I went back to the doctors to talk about the rest of my skin. Primarily, like, it's my cheeks and down on my chin that get particularly spotty. Right now you can see that I have like a few little bad boys kicking up about here. So I went to the doctors, we were talking it all through, and I got prescribed Duac. Now, I think Duac is what a lot of people's go-to is if they are starting to have acne and problem skin. It's basically just like a cream that you put on like once a day. So I put it on just before I'm going to bed. and it has actually worked pretty well, to be honest. Like a few days ago these spots were pretty huge and now they are very calm. Like they're not red, they're not fiery, they're not horrible, and yeah, it does do the job, to be fair. But it is kind of annoying because it's not like a preventative thing. You kind of need to wait for the spots to be there and then dry them out. But I have been using that kind of on and off since, and my skin is probably looking the best that it's looked in months. So fast forward maybe about a week, 2 weeks time, I was then back home for summer and I still had a relatively large lump where Jerry had been. I feel like nothing else was going to come out of it, but there was still like a hard lump beneath my skin. Enter stage left, Amanda. So maybe about 2 years ago I produced a series of like online advertising videos for a company in Glasgow called Skin Technology, which does like facial lasering for a whole range of different reasons. And while I was there, I would have been about first year at university when I did these videos, and as part of the video I got this laser done on my face. And since then my mum has been going to Amanda every so often, and Jerry came up in conversation. My mum had mentioned that everything that's happened, I'd been to the doctors and basically been told that once I'd finished the medication I just had to wait for it to leave my face. To which Amanda replied, "Rubbish, that's not all we can do so much more. Tell Hollie to come in and I'll fix her face." I went in and saw Amanda and I ended up getting a non-invasive like bacteria killing laser across my face. And I got that done once before I went on holiday and once when I got back. And I honestly think that my skin would be nowhere near where it is now if I didn't get that done. Obviously, I don't know what helped my skin the most. I don't know what's got it to where it is now. Obviously, somewhere along the line, it is just a big combination of everything that I've been doing. But I honestly feel like without that laser, I would still have a huge lump on my face. That, and I feel like as well having a week in the sun really helped. Obviously the vitamin D is great for your skin and your nails and your hair, and I feel like that's just really like encouraged Jerry to get out of my face. And that's kind of where we are now. It has been like 2.5 months maybe since this full thing kicked off properly, and right now I'm basically just washing my face with my Dermol, and I will use the Duac kind of maybe every second night just as I feel fit. Like I don't want to put it on every night and like kill my face, but I feel like it does really help and I'm happy to keep using it. After I got the lasering done with Amanda, she also gave me a retinol kind of face cream, which I do use occasionally as well. I just kind of alternate it with the Duac. I'd say I maybe use that about 3 times a month and use the Duac kind of every second day. But yeah, that is my story, that is Jerry's story, that's what's been happening on my face for the last little while. Obviously, as I mentioned at the start of this video, I know wholeheartedly that what I've been through is a fraction of what some people go through with their skin, and I'm not trying to sit here and be like, oh woe is me, what's happening here, I'm so upset. But I feel like it's something that needs to be talked about, and the more people that can talk openly about their skin and their skin problems online, the better. I would also just like to say, like a little disclaimer here, I've spoken openly about what I've been prescribed and what I've been using on my face, but that has all been like prescribed by a doctor. I do not recommend that anyone tries any of this without speaking to a doctor first, but I felt like it would be wrong to do this video without mentioning what I had been using to get me where I am. And I guess that's it, that's the end of this story time. Unless Jerry decides that he's coming back, which I really hope he doesn't, this is kind of where he's just going to fizzle out. And I know now, after speaking to various doctors, that there is a huge risk that it could happen again. That is the nature of cystic acne, and any one of these spots could have decided that it wanted to do that, but I'm just lucky that it didn't. If you guys did enjoy this video, please do give it a thumbs up. I'd be really interested to hear about your stories down below in the comments if you're willing to share. Let's create a little community, a little chat down there. If you are not already subscribed to my channel, please do, because that would be very, very nice. I am very close to 6,000 subscribers, and if I hit that, I will be excited. So yeah, thank you guys very much for watching. This was a big old ramble, but I feel like it was needed. You guys asked for it, so it's your fault. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon with another video. Bye! Mwah!